Yeah. And speaking of loud, proud, and visible, let's bring in today's guest. As we mentioned at the top of the show, Mamaw Lisa Parker is a veteran from Appalachia who has found a way to connect with working in rural communities all across the country using her outside voice. And she really hits home with her down-to-earth perspective that she serves up with a little bit of saltiness.
Yep.
Lisa, welcome to the Blue Dot. All right.
Well, thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I don't even know where to start with introducing you because you have such an amazing background. U.S. Army captain, police officer, entrepreneur, member of a very proud military family, and of course, the creator of Mamaw's Politics on the Porch, where you deliver your take on political views. So I'm just going to hand it over to you to tell us a little bit about your background and even the extraordinary military lineage that you have.
Well, my brother and I were raised by a single mother, and she was very progressive, especially for her time. She was a social worker. She actually started out in the Army as a nurse in Korea. She was a social worker, later went on to be a missionary in Brazil. So we were kind of brought up in the heart of Appalachia with a very liberal, progressive mother. So that's kind of where my brother and I got it. Our military history goes back. My grandfather was in World War II. He was in the Army, Quartermaster Corps. My father-in-law was in World War II, and he was in the Army Air Corps. Then, let's see, we'll move forward a little bit. Then my uncle was in Vietnam twice. My husband was in Vietnam, turned 18 in Vietnam. My brother was in the Army. I went into the Army Reserves, and then our son, Jonathan, went into the 82nd Airborne. Calvin pinned his jump wings on him, and he served in Iraq and Afghanistan. So I think I have a place where I can say what I damn well want, and I am totally against people that forget that they're supposed to support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
I could not agree with you more. It's just, it just blows my mind that people subscribe loyalty to an individual versus the Constitution, especially an individual, shall we say, rather questionable character. But
it's
we
not
really
questionable. There's no question about it. Come on, let's not put lipstick on a pig.
Come on, you're with Mamaw. Quit beating around the bush.
You know, the older we get, we have less time for nonsense.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
But yes, Amy McGrath and I had a long conversation about where did we get over not defending the Constitution.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, our goal is, and I know yours, you share it with us, is to get us back to that. And
absolutely.
I think we're turning a corner. I feel like it. So we certainly appreciate the service of you and your family. And, this is what America is all about. Those who sacrifice to give us the life that we have today. And when you see somebody's trying to take it away from us, we need to fight. We need to fight to keep it. And I'd love to be a fly on the wall listening to your kitchen table.
It is not for the weak at heart. Yeah, to be a fly on the wall, you got to be pretty tough, not thin-skinned.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall wearing armor, listening to your kitchen table discussions, especially around Pete Hegseth and the constant disrespect the current administration has for members of the military, just what we were just talking about, from generals to new enlistees. It seems like he is just jealous and, quite frankly, just intimidated and doesn't know what to do.
Well, first of all, bless Petey Pie's heart. He is just so in over his head. He, did a lot of this, and he has nothing to back it up. He was mediocre at best. If you've been in the military 24 years, and the highest you got was major, that was only because you were your buddy's drinking buddy, and that only gets you so far. He was that guy that every woman who ever has walked into a place that served alcohol gets cringy and wants to move away from. See, Natalie gets it. She knows that's him. That's that guy. And the fact that he can't even do pull-ups. I mean, doing them little old sissy kicks, trying to do a pull-up, my God, I could do better than that. And I'm 68 years old with 2 artificial knees. I mean, really? And then he's telling these generals who have been in combat how they're supposed to behave and be warriors and tough. Oh my God, don't even get me started. And it's like when I was talking to Amy McGrath, and my God, you people have got to elect that woman.
No,
You
she's
know,
wonderful.
it's all this DEI nonsense. You can either land an F 18 Hornet on a postage stamp in the middle of the ocean or you can't. I mean, there's no seconds about it, there's no guessing about
Right.
it. You can either do it or you dunk it. So, yeah, Petey Pie has issues. He's got a lot of issues.
Well, I honestly now I stay away from the pull up thing because I got like T-Rex arms. I can't. I mean, they're just so
Yeah, but
weak.
you're
I've never
not
been able
out.
to do one.
You're not in front of all the generals that we have in the
No.
military saying how they need to be man and, be a warrior.
Right. That's exactly right. I'm not taking anybody else to task. So that's right.
I just want to talk a little bit about ICE and the fact they're deporting military veterans and foreign nationals who served in the military, served our country. And I don't know what your take is on that. And
Well, I'll tell you a true story. I have a friend that lives out in California. She is Hispanic. Her family has owned property in California since it was part of the United States before it was a state. She's like seventh or eighth generation. She retired master sergeant from the Army and then went to work for the Defense Department. As she was leaving work one day this summer, she got detained by ICE and they wanted to see her ID. So she showed them her retiree ID and her ID from where she was working. That wasn't good enough because, you can be a foreign national and be in the military. So they detained her while she called her daughter to go to her apartment to get her birth certificate. That is absolutely outrageous. Those little whiny ass gravy seals who've had no training. We don't know who they are. They got to cover their little old faces out there detaining people that could whip their butt all over the place, but refrained from doing so. And it used to be that we used the military as a pathway to citizenship. That was a common thing. I mean, they would come into this country, they would join the military, they would serve with great honor as a pathway to citizen. It kind of reminds me of what we did to our Japanese Americans during World War II. It's disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. And there's no honor amongst thieves. There's no honor amongst those ICE people. They took a decision. They made a decision to take that kind of work on. I don't care how badly you needed a job. There gets to be a moral factor in there. And they're doing that. And now they're stopping citizens. They've stopped Native Americans. Prove you're an American. They are trying to deport Puerto Ricans. For God's sakes, they're Americans. I have nothing good for them, and shame on every one of you that took a $50,000 bonus and took pay during the government shutdown, and you're going around terrorizing human beings. You're no better than the brown shirts of World War II, period.
That's exactly right. It's like the
So,
secret police. And,
they
and,
are.
and I like your observation that a lot of them are former J6ers, probably Proud Boys in there.
Absolutely.
The 3%ers, some of these other guys that, got
that's
pardoned
really why
and
they're
now they're
hiding their
working in
face.
ICE.
Well,
Right, exactly.
and having been in law enforcement and the military, there's a lot of training that goes in, and there's a lot of de-escalation training. And then when you stop
Right.
someone, you have to have probable cause, and you can't profile. I mean, there's a whole plethora of things they seemed exempt from. And even their takedown tactics, that's not a matter of training. They think they're in pro wrestling matches or something. They're going to grab the
It's
wrong.
terrible.
And here's what my fear is. One of these days, they're going to grab the wrong person who's going to give them back more than what they got coming.
Yep.
Right.
And then that's going to be the tipping point. And that's my big fear. It's almost like they're trying. There was a gentleman just the other day, again of Hispanic descent, who is a U.S. citizen. They pulled over twice in one day, broke out his window, wrestled him to the ground, tore his arm all up. And he's like, I'm a U.S. citizen. So what happened to this? We're only going to be deporting criminals.
And to piggyback on that, one of my fears is that there's going to be someone running around there posing as an ICE agent who's not an ICE agent and
Well,
grab
that's already
somebody up and
happened.
throw them in their truck.
Well, that's already happened.
Yep.
That's
Good
right.
point.
Trying to
it.
watch the saltiness.
Well, while we're on a roll, and you grew up in Appalachia, so we want to ask about another veteran who claims to have grown up in Appalachia, our current Vice President, J.D. Vance.
You mean Jimmy Hamill? Poor
Yeah.
little Jimmy.
So tell us about how your two Appalachias are different.
Well, it started, he was on TV about his book. So I went out and grabbed Hillbilly Elegy, and by the time I got into about the fifth chapter, I threw the book. I was furious. He's a usurper. He has
Uh-huh.
identity issues. Bless his heart. He just doesn't know who he is. Now, for people who are wondering, do you ask about J.D. Vance? He was born a Bowman and he was adopted a Hamel. Okay, that happens to kids. You don't have a choice. But now you tell me about a man who graduates high school as Jimmy Hamill, who goes through the Marine Corps as Jimmy Hamill. And if you go online, you can search Military Times. You can see the one article that he wrote about Humvees when he was in Kuwait, because he says he was deployed, but he only got to Kuwait, which is kind of a
Mm,
luxury place to be. So he wrote about Humvees. That was
mm.
his job. But he did serve. Then he goes to Ohio State
He did.
University and graduates as Jimmy Hamill. He goes to Yale Law School as Jimmy Hamill. And then suddenly he meets Peter Thiel and
Mm.
changes his name to J.D. Vance. So, you know, my little spidey senses goes up. There's something somebody hadn't found there yet. And that little old boy, he just don't know who he wants to be. So let's get back to being an Appalachian. So first of all, I am suspicious of anyone who calls himself a hillbilly. I am from Appalachia. I am a proud daughter. One branch of my family has been in southeastern Ohio since the early 1700s. My grandma's people were from Flatwoods, Kentucky. So I do speak with some authority there. My grandmother has a PhD. I have a master's degree. I mean, we're not dumb. But there are issues with being brought up and choosing to remain in Appalachia. It's not that our children are dumber than anybody else's, they don't have the opportunities. We have 3 high schools that serve an entire county. The teachers do the best they can, but we do not have the opportunities that the big urban and suburban schools do. We just don't. We don't have the tax base. They don't have those opportunities. They don't have the connections to get into certain schools and to do what they need to do. So therefore, which was one of his things in Hillbilly Elegy, a lot of kids in Appalachia, in order to get to college and stuff, do join the military, as I did, to pay for it. So that's all good. But let me tell you something. Being brought up in Middletown, Ohio, when his daddy, his stepdaddy, but he was adopted, so his daddy worked for General Motors, I believe. His mother was a nurse. Where I grew up, you were well off. That was living quite comfortable to be brought up there. Middletown, Ohio is no more part of Appalachia than Cleveland is. It just ain't happening. The fact that he spent 2 summers with his Mamaw in eastern Kentucky does not make you a hillbilly. It does not make you a son of Appalachia. It does not make you understanding. That means you had a loving Mamaw who took care of you while your mother was in rehab. His mother did not become a drug addict because of the Colombian cartel or the Mexicans. She stole it at the hospital she worked at, and that's why she lost her nursing license. So let's be real about it. So, you know, he's got issues there. He just doesn't know who he is, and he keeps thinking, I'll reinvent myself. Right down to he was an anti-Trumper till it became beneficial to be a Trumper. Peter Thiel bought him his Senate seat. He bought him the vice presidency. And that's the man who's pulling the strings on our vice president. And those are all facts.
Yep.
What else you want to know?
Wrap it up. No, we got more. I mean, we love it.
Well, let's bring it back a little bit more grassroots.
Oh,
I know
okay.
you said you had ties to Kentucky. You know, we're Kentuckians here, but you were also the chair of your Democratic Party for I think 8 years. So
Yes.
what made you step away from that leadership
Oh,
position to take your voice to the porch? Because you know, I there's a lot of us on that grassroots level trying to find what works best for us and how do we get the message out there.
the county I live in is so ruby red. It shines in outer space. But we had this core group of Democrats. We were trying, well, when I first took over, it was just a little prior to 2016. We couldn't get people to even put out yard signs.
Mhm.
So to set an example, we put out yard signs in our yard. Somebody stole them. So my husband, oh, he's a hoot now. He's the one you really ought to get on a show. He moved all the signs under our flag that's got the American flag and the American airborne flag under it. And he put lights on them, and he hand wrote something on his sign, and people were honking. And I said, what did you put on that sign? I walked around. He wrote, warning, these signs are within range. So nobody ever stole our signs again. So much for being a snowflake. So
Yeah.
we did that. We tried doing other things, thinking outside of the box. Hell, the state party didn't know what they were doing. And we've been going to farmers markets. We've been doing street markets, just everything that we could. And we were in a meeting talking about something, and somebody stood up. They wanted to set up at the farmers market, but they didn't want to use the word Democrat.
Mm.
And that's when I kind of blew a gasket, as I've kind of been known to do. I got a little, I'll be polite, ticked off. And I said, I've been doing this 8 years, and the woman that helps me with all of this with Mamaws, we went back clear to 2012, and we just kept hitting the ceiling of 3,500 voters. We got, even the state recognized, we got 80% the last of our voters to turn out to vote. I mean, we got them to the polls, but we still couldn't break through of all the voters that we had in this county. So I like to study. I'm a real nerd when it comes to military history. And one of the best things a strategist can do is really study and get into the mind of their opposition. I won't say enemy, I say opposition. And so one of the brilliant things that I will give MAGA World for doing, they're back starting in 2014, was developing online communities. And they started reaching people who maybe couldn't get out or were afraid to get out. And they started making people feel like they belonged to something and that their voice could be heard. And at the same time, I noticed that we had a dramatic drop off of, usually your seniors are your reliable voters. I mean, election day is an event. But there's been a significant drop off of voters after they get to be a certain age because you get disappeared. For some reason in our society, they determined that men and women of a certain age or with gray hair weren't of value anymore. So I thought, you know what? I can remember if my mamaw said we need to go out on the porch and talk, yeah, get you something to drink because you're going to be out there a while and you're going to hear things maybe you don't want to hear, but you needed to hear them. So I just really was frustrated that one day and went out on my porch and just put it out there. I didn't target anybody, never dreamt anybody would watch. A bunch of people started watching. So it started out as therapy for myself. And then I realized it was therapy for other people, especially in our age group. And I have a strange demographic. I have the 55 and over, primarily women, but I've got men on there too. And then under 30.
Mm.
So my only guess is there's
Mm.
people under 30 that their mamaw's never taken them out on the porch. So
Maybe
I
it.
guess so.
So that's the demographic that I have and that I serve. But I just really wanted to start a community where people could use their voice again, because we're of the generation, the 60s were tumultuous and people forget that. The 60s were a rough time. But when we
Mhm.
got through it, we'd ended the Vietnam War. The people that came home from Vietnam, we decided they needed to be treated better. Women got rights. We got Title IX. I mean, the doors opened up. That generation has been silenced? I don't think so. There's still a
Mhm.
little fight and spark in there. So that's how I started Mamaw's Porch. And like I said, the older you get, the less time you have for BSing around and the filters go. And
That's right.
that's
We
how
don't
I got
suffer any
started.
fools.
No. I used to just, oh my gosh, my mom, she'd say, I'm like, Mother, she goes, hey, I'm closer to God than you are. I'll say what I want. So there you go. So
Yeah,
that's how I got
I
started.
would. I mean, you were talking about the '60s, and I remember the riots in LA and the riots across the country, and we're talking fires and massive
Mm-hmm.
destruction, and then the '68 Democratic Convention in Chicago, and the riot police out and all that stuff. So then when we talk about a couple of inflatable frogs in Portland being
Oh,
you
I
know
know. God love him.
like
You got to watch him. They
fire in
might
the
have been
streets. I'd be
poison
like,
dart frogs.
yeah.
But
But
you
But
brought
you're
up,
right. I was just gonna say, I think you're right. And then that's kind of stirred that back up, that memory of what it felt like to be like really fighting the good fight. And we got kind of complacent for a while, I think. And
well,
now we're
and
back in
people
it.
make the strange assumption that veterans are conservative. And while
Hmm.
there is that sect, I have typically found through talking at the VA that the sect that is never went through combat or didn't have close combat families.
Wow.
Most veterans that I know are progressive in that if you were an officer or a senior NCO, you wanted to take care of your soldiers and you realized how important food security was or housing was and those kind of things. Progressive somehow got an ugly name. It means to make progress, which is what we
Right.
need to do. In 1968, my husband was in Vietnam and turned 18 years old. At seven,
Wow.
think of
Yeah.
any
That is
17-year-old you
amazing.
know.
Oh
And
my,
so, he came back, and our son was the first to say it's because his dad had been through that he made sure he got the care that he needed. Because the Vietnam veterans came back and said, no, we're not going to put up with this anymore. We're going to make it better. And so they did. So we had all these different groups that made it better, and suddenly we're supposed to be silent. I was in the first group of women that were in the Army, not the Women's Army Corps, because of Title IX. I went in the year that they first allowed women into the military academies. And that's why Amy, I'm like, gosh, you guys got to do so many things we didn't get to do, but we cracked the door open.
Right.
And then they busted right through it. God love him. And then Petey Pie says you can't do that anymore. No, you ain't putting that genie back in the
oh my
bottle,
God.
dude.
Yeah.
That's
Ain't
right.
happening.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
20% of our military are women. Now, you going to
it's
lose a fifth of your military? I don't think so.
just clueless. Clueless. You
Well,
talk a lot about,
it's because he
go
hadn't
ahead.
drank. He's not drinking Kentucky bourbon. That's his problem.
I don't know what's that going to do? Give him
He just
a
drinking that old
polite
rock,
drunkenness.
that old rock gut stuff. Come on.
Yeah.
I have a confession for you. I don't drink bourbon, but I know I should give up my Kentucky card. But Brian carries the weight for me.
There you go.
Well, okay. We keep talking about bourbon. People must think that, I drink it 24/7. And I mean, I take an hour off once a week. So,
There you go. You just can't be
Yeah,
from
give me a-
Kentucky and not partake a little bit of the spirit.
that's right.
There-
Sip a little
We'll have to
bit.
send you some. Tell us what your favorite bottle is. You can't get where you are, and we'll get a bottle over to you if you like it.
Well, you talk a lot about grassroots organizing. I mean, talking about being the chair of the County Democratic Party and that grassroots effort and kind of where we're at. We got a lot of momentum. We got a lot of people that are showing up now at meetings that never showed up before. And you're on a mission to get good people to run for office so we can get people elected. You've created a policy platform that sets strategies for candidates
I
to
have.
win. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Uh-oh.
Here we go.
We're
I
gonna get
got
the
it
reference.
here.
We're getting the reference
They're
material
getting
out
the
now.
stuff out. I don't want to miss anything. So what I did was I thought, okay, I got a pretty good chunk of people. Now I'm not in the 500,000 range like a lot of these influencers, I guess they're called. I'm not an influencer. I'm
Mhm.
just a Mamaw. But amazingly, I had over 1,000 people respond, which is better than most pollsters ever get.
Heck yeah.
And so based on all those responses, the number one issue, surprisingly, was taking care of voting rights and what goes on within our government. So I follow that under my Constitution. I give my little Constitution classes on there. And so some of those things were to secure voting rights and make it a national thing so that each state can't add on more hurdles to voting accessibility. They wanted it to be a national holiday so that people could actually get out and vote. We need to include more people instead of exclude more people. Citizens United needs to be repealed. That can be done.
Yeah.
We need to make it a law because what the Supreme Court operated on, of course, I don't know how a corporation has its own heart and lungs, but that's a whole nother thing. But we need to have transparency in those PACs. So, yeah, you can go ahead and have a political action committee, but we want to know who is donating and how much.
Right.
So that's the key in there. And they want term limits. Now, congressmen are really ill favored to, get out their job. But, if you go back to our founding fathers, they intended for government service to be a service, not to be a career. So 10 terms for a congressman and 4 terms for a senator, that gets them over 20 years, and then move on and be an elder statesman. Retirement's not a bad thing. There's other things you can do and explore. So that was the top thing, was voting rights. The next thing is they wanted bodily autonomy codified into the Constitution, and that's for anything. Your body is your business. So it's not a matter of just women or any of those. It's your body is your business. And I think that should cover both spectrums of the political spectrums. And then we want Social Security and Medicare reform in that they are safe, they are secured. You can't keep borrowing from the Social Security. We're not going broke with Social Security and Medicare. That's a big fallacy. It's that Congress has made a habit of borrowing and sticking their hand in the till, and they don't want to put it back. Well, we're not having the population that we used to have, but we're still solvent as long as they keep their mitts out of it. So if we save Social Security and Medicare and codify, and even health care, because the easiest thing to do is simply have national health care. We're the only country that doesn't. So those were the three major winning issues that I think that, and you can fit the economy into any of those, but those are the winning issues. That's what both sides want to see. And I think that's why we're seeing a rise of independent candidates.
That's really interesting. The voting was like the top one, because that's like something that I really worry about.
hmm
And, we definitely need to be
But we
focusing
don't
on
talk
for
about it.
2026. I know. Right. Right.
Everybody worries about it, but nobody talks about it.
Well, I think we're talking, there's more talk about it now. And, like I
hmm
follow Mark Elias and Democracy Docket religiously. And, he drills into all the details, and you just find all these little fingers are putting into all
Yeah.
these little ways to, flip something or, I don't know.
If we don't get a handle on it in the next 5 years, we're going to be living in an oligarchy, period.
Yeah.
We've got 5 years.
Absolutely. And then we have the issue of gerrymandering as well. We talked to David Pepper about quite a few things, but he talked a lot about the gerrymandering and how, of course, Ohio, you guys have it
Yeah.
pretty bad. Luckily, we have a Democratic governor. We were trying to kind of hold that stuff off a little bit, but now they're looking to do it in Indiana. So
But
it's
Indiana's
this
holding the line. Even the
yeah, they are.
Republicans say, no, this is too much. This is a bridge too far. And I think the taco has lost so much cred here in the last 2 weeks that he doesn't have the pressure to put on him that he did before. But Ohio,
Right.
unfortunately, is having a race with Abbott of Texas and DeSantis of Florida to see who's the most despicable.
Yeah.
We already know Ohio is the top of the three most corrupt states with the Larry Householder thing. But, I thought better of DeWine, and I'm just so disappointed in that little hedgehog.
Yeah.
Hey, Taco ain't the only one that could call names.
I felt like DeWine has been playing nice in the sandbox with Governor Bashir, though. During COVID, I
Don't
think they
trust him.
played right. But then when he said, "Hey, let's bring in your National Guard," DeWine was like, "Sure, yeah, I have the National
Yeah.
Guard," and that's when I was like,
Yeah.
"You were
Yeah,
so
he's done that a
close."
lot. Well, he's done that a
Yeah.
lot. Like during COVID, Ohio, because of Amy Acton, was
Yeah.
the first to shut down and do the right things. And then when the pressure got on him, he just caved and we got rid of Amy and he wanted to do other things. And he always starts out like he's going to do the right thing, like not going to Cleveland to the RNC. And then he buckled. And, he just can't sustain taking a stand and doing the right thing. He starts out and then he can't. So that's
Yeah,
cowardice.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think I'm glad to see this pushback against the gerrymandering. I think Newsom, very aggressive and
Yes.
with the voters' will, getting those 5 seats and pushing back in that way. I think a lot of other
And
states are
Kathy
going, do we
Hochul
really want to do
said
this?
if somebody else
Yeah.
jumps, she will too. So I mean, it's
Right.
a zero sum game.
Yep.
Right. Exactly. And like you said, Trump's influence and his power is waning. I think uh, this is such an opportunity for Republicans. I keep saying, and Natalie and I talk about this. It's like, if you're looking for a reason if you're a Republican, to get to split from Trump and start to get away and pry yourself away from this, what better way than Epstein and pedophilia? It's like, oh, he was a great leader and I really liked his policy and, blah, 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 but I can't do the pedophilia thing, right? It gives you a clear break to get away from it. And I
Can
don't know,
you
maybe we'll see
believe
that.
we even have that conversation?
Yes, right.
No.
I
Well, okay,
cannot
I'm going to say
believe
yes
that's
because holy, look at
how
some of
is
these other
that a
conversations we
conversation?
have. I don't know.
But people knew it before, though, and this what gets it. They knew who he was. Maybe if they didn't get it in 2016, they knew who he was this time around, and they still voted for him. And
Yeah.
so, to be honest, I think that 30%, no matter what happens, they will support him no matter what. And I think history is going to go down the line and think very not fondly of them when we look
No,
back on this.
you've got to
It's not
remember
going to be
how
kind to
history
him.
will. Yeah. how history will judge you. And I look at, Trump's tried his usual barf of, it's a hoax and all this stuff. Listen, the King of England ousted his own brother because he also has a copy. That's what everybody keeps forgetting. Mama, the Queen,
Right.
she had a copy of that stuff. She'd already paid a chunk of money and put him over in the corner, but he was her son. But his brother, you're out of here. So it's not a hoax. That's what I keep telling people. Look what the King of England did. This is not a made-up Democratic hoax. There's something in those papers, and there's more than one copy because the King's got them.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
a little afraid to do this. We do a lightning round of questions.
this will be the best one we've ever had. I got a feeling this will be the best one ever.
Probably
and I
not.
wonder, would you be up for that? 5
Go.
lightning round rapid fire questions for you.
Go for it.
All right. We'll start out easy. I'm going to start out easy. Growing up, what was your favorite cartoon?
Cecil and Beanie.
Cecil and Beanie. Not familiar
Remember
with that, Brian?
Cecil?
Beanie.
Remember Cecil
Oh,
was the sea dragon? Look out, Beanie Boy. He had a
I
pet
do remember
sea
that,
dragon.
but oh my gosh, that's really taking me back.
All right, this one may be controversial. Maybe, I don't know. But what branch of the military has the best uniforms?
The Army, now that they went back to the pinks. Now, it used to,
I knew you were, I had a feeling you were going to say Army. If not,
it used
then...
to be the Marine Corps, and it pains me to say that.
All right.
But now that the Army's gone back to the pinks, the Army's got the best one.
Facts.
All right, now this one, I don't know about this one. You have to choose one of these two people to have on your porch to share a cup of coffee with, okay? We talked about both of them. You have to have either Pete Hegseth or JD Vance.
Petey Pie.
Really?
And I'm not sure I would have coffee with him. He might be wearing it. And I'll tell you why. Because poor little Jimmy Hamill doesn't know who he is yet, and I'm afraid I'd be punching down. Petey Pie's a drunk, and all bets are off.
There you go. On the flip side, you get to choose one person, living or dead, to share a cup of coffee with on your porch. Who would that be?
Just one more hour with my mother.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
See, now that hit home with me. That's the same. I hear you. Get me crying here. Okay. Lastly, if you had to pick a mascot for Mamaw's porch, what would it be?
I already have one.
You do?
I have a Rottweiler, and her name is Khaleesi, Mother of Dragons. How fitting.
It has the Rottweiler
Oh my
appeared.
gosh.
Maybe I've missed them in your videos.
No, I've never had her on there. She's in the room right now.
Well, one day you're going to have the Rottweiler and your
Can
husband
you hear her
on.
barking?
No,
Yeah.
I'm curious about
I
both
heard
now.
just, yeah.
Yes,
Khaleesi, I like that.
Khaleesi, Mother of Dragons. You must look up
Ooh.
Game of
That is
Thrones, and you know the...
Yeah. I'm a big GOT fan for sure.
Yeah. So,
Was
yes,
there anything else you can add that you want to have our listeners know about you, or what you've been doing, or how to
You need
get
to
people
show
fired
up and vote. We're in the mess we're in today because
Yes.
10 million people sat it out. And that doesn't count the people that could vote that didn't register to vote. You need to get off your butts. You need to go vote. And I don't want to hear anybody say they're afraid. If you need somebody to hold your hand, take you to the polls, holler. But you need to go vote. Period. Vote.
Totally
100%.
agree. Best message ever.
And if you can't vote for a progressive and you can't vote for a woman or someone of color or whatever's going on in your little lizard brain, then stay home.
All right, you heard it here. We got our
Yes.
marching orders.
Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your salt with us. We super appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. Mamaw, it was great. I'm going to continue watching your pod. They're so entertaining and informative.
Well,
Yes.
thank
I like
you
it.
very much. Send me a link to this one.
Sure
Oh,
will.
we will.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.